The diplomatic vessel moved slowly through the energy field that surrounded the neutral station. Inside the ship, General Patricia Morrison stood near the large window and looked out at the stars. She was 63 years old, with silver hair pulled back tight. Her uniform showed the marks of someone who had served for 40 years in the military. She had never fought against the Varaxians in her entire career. Peace had lasted for 900 years between humans and the massive alien empire that controlled 14 star systems. Patricia carried a small case with papers inside. The papers had ideas for new trade routes and ways both species could explore space together. She hoped this meeting would lead to another century of peace. The Varaxians had called this meeting themselves, which was strange. It made the leaders back on Earth nervous. Something felt wrong, but Patricia believed in diplomacy. She believed people could talk and find answers without fighting. Captain David Hughes sat at the controls of the ship. He turned his head and spoke to Patricia. "The Varaxian delegation is already waiting for us on the station. We have permission to dock now." Patricia nodded and picked up her case. 3 other people would go with her to the meeting. Commander Lisa Yang was her assistant and helped plan everything. Major Greg Sutton led the security team that would protect them. Ambassador Kenneth Price knew how to talk to aliens and had met Varaxians many times before. The 4 humans walked through the airlock when it opened. The station was huge inside, with screens everywhere showing Varaxian planets and their powerful warships. The aliens wanted everyone to see how strong they were. In the middle of the large room stood High Commander Zekther. He was tall and covered in armor that looked like the shell of an insect. He had 4 eyes, and they all looked at Patricia as she walked closer. Patricia held out her hand the way humans do when they meet. The Varaxians did not really understand this custom, but they accepted it. "High Commander Zekther, we are grateful for this meeting. I believe we can make good progress today on the proposals Earth has sent you." Her voice was calm and professional. Zekther made a clicking sound with the mouthparts on his face. "Proposals, yes. We have looked at your request to use the Arcturus corridor for trade ships." The translation device on his chest changed his words into English that the humans could understand. Patricia waited for him to continue. She could feel her heart beating faster. "And what have you decided?" she asked. "Denied." The single word hit like a punch. "Furthermore, the Empire has decided that humans have violated our treaty. You have built too many colonies in the outer regions of space. You will remove all people from settlements beyond your home system. You have 6 months to do this." Kenneth Price stepped forward quickly. His face had gone pale. "High Commander, that is not possible. Those colonies have over 2 million people living there. We built them following the rules of our treaty. The treaty allows us to expand as our population grows." Zekther moved closer to the humans. His large body made him look even more threatening. "The treaty was a gift from the Empire. We could have destroyed Earth 900 years ago, but we showed mercy. Perhaps you have forgotten what it means to face the true power of the Varaxian forces." Patricia felt her hands close into fists, but she kept her voice steady. "High Commander, we can discuss these terms. There must be a way that works for both our peoples. We do not want conflict. There's nothing to discuss. The Empire is tired of human arrogance. You spread through space like a disease, always reaching for more. You were given the gift of survival, and you have wasted it." Zekther turned away from them and gestured to his guards. Patricia raised her hand to signal her own team to stay calm. "We will not abandon our citizens. Those colonies are homes to families and children. Many of those people have never even seen Earth. Give us time to speak with our government. We will find a solution that works. The time for talking has ended." Zekther did not look at her when he spoke. "You will take our demands back to your leaders. 6 months. If you do not obey the Empire, we'll force you to leave by using our military." The meeting was over before it really began. Varaxian soldiers with weapons walked the humans back to their ship. The weapons were charged and ready to fire. When the airlock closed behind them, Kenneth Price sat down hard in a chair. His whole body seemed to shrink. "They are going to start a war. After 900 years of peace, they are forcing us to choose between our people and fighting them." His voice was barely a whisper. Patricia stood at the window again, watching the station get smaller as their ship moved away. Below them, the planet Kepler 44, to be turned slowly in space. It was a beautiful world that could have been a home for humans, if things had been different. She thought about the 2 million people in the outer colonies. They had no idea they had just become pieces in a dangerous game. Get me a secure communication channel to Earth Command. Use the Alpha 9 encryption protocol. The Council needs to know what happened here immediately. Patricia's voice was sharp and clear-cutting through the sadness in the room. Her crew moved quickly to follow her orders. Patricia allowed herself one moment of doubt. Humanity had built everything for 900 years on the foundation of that peace treaty. Their military was designed to keep order and fight criminals, not to wage war against an empire that had conquered many worlds. If fighting started, Earth would lose. Everyone knew this truth. But as she looked at the faces of her team, she saw David Hughes holding the controls with white knuckles. She saw Lisa Yang already pulling up information about military strength. She saw Greg Sutton checking his weapon with the movements of a soldier who had trained but never fought a real battle. Patricia made a choice in that moment. They would not die quietly. They would not simply accept extinction. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it standing up straight, with dignity. The 900 years of peace had given them time to grow and build and spread among the stars. Maybe it had also given them time to learn how to fight. The communication screen lit up, connecting them to Fleet Admiral Charles Wagner, back on Earth. Patricia straightened her uniform and prepared to tell him the news that would change everything. The age of peace was ending, and what came after would decide humanity's future. Forever. 3 weeks passed after the failed meeting, and Patricia Morrison stood in the war room deep under the city of Geneva. Holographic screens floated in the air showing where Earth's military ships were positioned across space. The Council had voted to reject the Varaxian demands. Everyone agreed that moving 2 million people in 6 months was impossible. Even if they could do it, giving up those colonies would show the Varaxians that humans could be pushed around forever. Fleet Admiral Charles Wagner stood next to one of the displays. His face looked tired and old in the blue light. They are testing us to see if we will fold without a fight. 900 years of peace made them think we have gone soft. President Elena Martinez sat at the head of the table. Can we even defend ourselves against them? General Morrison, tell me the truth about our actual capabilities. Patricia pulled up charts that compared human and Varaxian military strength. The numbers looked brutal. In a direct fight, we are outmatched 5-1 in large ships and 10-1 in fighters. Their weapons technology is at least 2 generations ahead of ours. Our advantages are limited. We know our own territory better. We have faster engines for moving within star systems. Our defense systems against missiles are more sophisticated because we built them too. Protect against asteroids so we would lose. Martinez said it like a fact, not a question. In a long war, yes. But we can make them pay dearly for every battle. The colonies have defensive platforms. We have minefields and automated defense networks. We have 3 million personnel across all branches of the military. Patricia met the president's eyes directly. We cannot win, but we can make them regret starting this. The door opened, and Commander Lisa Yang came in quickly. Her face was flushed red. General, we have a situation. The Varaxians just sent another delegation request. They want an immediate meeting at the neutral station. They say they want to clarify their position. People around the table started talking at once. Ambassador Kenneth Price leaned forward. It could be an opportunity. Maybe the Empire's leaders realized pushing us this hard was a mistake. Charles Wagner growled his response. Or it is a trap. They see we are preparing our forces, and they want to catch our command staff in one place, where they can kill us all. Patricia thought about the options carefully. Going back to that station felt dangerous, like walking into an ambush. But refusing might close the door on any chance to avoid bloodshed. What is their timeline? They want the meeting in 48 hours. Same location, same format. Lisa handed her a data device with the formal invitation. They specifically requested you to lead the delegation again. President Martinez turned to Patricia. General, I will not order you to go. This is your decision to make. Patricia looked at the displays showing ships and people under her command. She thought of the colonists on the outer worlds living their normal lives, trusting Earth to protect them. She thought of her daughter Claire, who served as a lieutenant on the defense platform orbiting Europa. All of them depending on what happened in this room, I will go. But this time I am taking a full security detachment and a sea. I'm bat-ready ship. If they want to talk, we will talk. If they want something else, we will be ready. Patricia's voice was firm and clear. 2 days later, Patricia's cruiser named Liberty's Shield approached the neutral station. This time she did not arrive on a diplomatic vessel. She came on a warship covered in weapons with shields powered up and all tactical systems ready for battle. Captain Sarah Bennett commanded the vessel and had spent 20 years patrolling the frontier. "General, I do not like this," Sarah said as they prepared to dock. "Our sensors are detecting elevated energy signatures throughout the station. They could have weapons powered and ready to fire," noted Captain. "Keep the crew at battle stations. If anything happens to me in there, you have authorization to get this ship back to Earth by any means necessary." Patricia checked her plasma pistol that she had carried for decades but never fired except at a practice range. "And Sarah, if shooting starts, make them remember we were here." The docking procedure felt tense and dangerous. Patricia brought 30 Marines in full combat armor led by Major Greg Sutton. They moved through the airlock like a military operation, not a peaceful diplomatic mission. The Varaxians waited in the same large room, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Where before there had been at least some pretense of civility, now there was only cold hostility. High Commander Ziegther stood in the center of the room with twice as many guards as before. Behind him, Patricia noticed something new. A weapons platform with targeting sensors that tracked every movement her team made. "You come armed." Ziegther's voice dripped with contempt. "Is this how humans approach peace talks? We learned from our last visit that your definition of peace differs from ours." Patricia replied evenly. "You demanded the surrender of our colonies. We're here to discuss alternatives." "There are no alternatives." Ziegther moved closer, and Patricia saw something in his 4 eyes that sent cold fear down her spine. This was not a negotiation. This was theater. The Empire has made its judgment. Humanity's time among the stars is ending. You will retreat to your birth world, and you will remain there. Any resistance will be met with total annihilation. Ambassador Kenneth Price stepped forward, trying one more time. "High Commander, please. There must be some room for compromise. What if we agreed to halt new settlements temporarily? What if we offered technology exchanges or economic agreements? Your technology is primitive. Your economy is irrelevant. You have nothing we want except your absence from space we consider ours." Ziegther's mandibles clicked with finality. "This meeting is over. You have your orders. 6 months. Comply or die." It was the dismissive arrogance that broke something inside Patricia. She had spent 40 years being diplomatic and careful and maintaining peace. But looking at Ziegther's contemptuous expression, she saw the truth. The Varaxians had never respected the treaty. They had simply waited until it was convenient to break it. "No." Patricia said the word quietly, but it seemed to echo in the vast chamber. Ziegther turned slowly. "What did you say?" "I said no." Patricia's voice grew stronger with each word. "We will not abandon our people. We will not retreat to Earth like frightened animals. Humanity has earned its place in this galaxy through 900 years of peace and hard work and good faith. If you want our colonies, you will have to take them by force." Absolute silence filled the room for a moment. Then Ziegther's body language shifted into something Patricia's combat training recognized as a pre-attack posture. "You dare defy the Empire, I dare to stand up for my people." Patricia held her ground and did not back away. "We are not the same species you pushed around 900 years ago. We have grown. We have built a civilization worth defending. And we will defend it." Ziegther raised one armored appendage, signaling to his guards. "Then you have chosen extinction. The Empire will demonstrate what happens to those who defy us. We will start by making an example of you." Everything happened at once. Varaxian guards raised their weapons. "Ack!" Greg Sutton shouted a warning. "Ack!" The Marines moved to form a protective barrier around Patricia. And then, from the weapons platform behind, Zekthor came the high-pitched whine of a plasma rifle charging. Patricia saw the targeting laser paint a red dot on her chest. She saw Zekthor's eyes narrow with satisfaction. She had just enough time to think of Claire and her daughter's face before the world exploded in white-hot agony. The plasma bolt hit her center mass, burning through her uniform through skin and bone. Patricia was thrown backward, crashing into Ambassador Price. She heard screaming and realized distantly it was her own voice. The sound of return fire filled the air as her Marines engaged the Viraxians. Greg. Sutton was at her side, instantly pressing his hands against the massive wound. Medic now. His face was pale and his voice was breaking. Stay with me, General. Stay with me. Patricia tried to speak, but blood filled her mouth. The pain was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Through dimming vision, she saw her Marines fighting toward the airlock, dragging her and the other delegates. She saw Viraxian guards falling under concentrated fire. She saw Zekthor retreating behind his own forces with an expression of calculated satisfaction. They shot me, she thought hazily. They called a peace talk and shot me. The Liberty's shield tore away from the station with emergency speed. The ship's doctor commander, Frank Hughes, waited in the airlock with a full trauma team. They loaded Patricia onto a stretcher, already working to save her life as the ship's engines engaged at maximum power. She's crashing. Someone shouted, "Blood pressure is dropping. I am losing her pulse." Patricia felt herself slipping away into darkness. The pain was fading, replaced by cold numbness. This is how I die, she thought. Shot during a peace talk by an empire of cowards. But then she thought of Claire again, and of her daughter, who would learn her mother had been murdered under a flag of truce. She thought of the 2 million colonists who would be slaughtered if Earth did not fight. She thought of 900 years of peace, ending not with surrender, but with treachery and blood. No, she decided with the last of her strength. Not yet. The peace was dead, and what came next would require war. The news of the attack on General Patricia Morrison spread across Earth's communication networks within hours. The footage captured by the Marine security cameras was impossible to ignore. The Viraxians had called a diplomatic meeting and then deliberately shot humanity's highest-ranking military officer at point-blank range. Not in battle, not during a military engagement. During a peace talk under conditions of supposed neutrality and safety. President Elena Martinez stood before the United Earth Assembly, with representatives from every nation and colony watching. The holographic displays showed Patricia's condition in the hospital, critical but stable, in an induced coma, while surgeons worked to repair the catastrophic damage to her chest and lungs. The same displays showed the tactical situation with Viraxian fleets already moving toward the outer colonies. They tried to kill her as a message, Martinez said with controlled fury in her voice. General Morrison went to that station to prevent a war. They shot her to start one. The question before us now is not whether we will fight, but how we will fight, and whether humanity will survive what comes next. The debate that followed was brief. Every representative understood what was at stake. The Viraxians had shown their true nature. There would be no more negotiations, no more treaties, no more pretending that humanity could coexist peacefully with an empire that saw them as an infestation to be eliminated. The vote was unanimous. Earth was going to war. Fleet Admiral Charles Wagner took command of the Unified Defense Forces. He had Patricia's tactical assessments and her contingency plans and her final orders from before the attack. If they come for us, make them pay for every life they take. Charles stood in the command center aboard the orbital defense station named Victory's Hope. He watched the deployment of Earth's forces across 40 light-years of space. It was not enough, would never be enough against the Viraxian Empire. But it was what they had, and they were going to use every ship and every weapon and every soldier. Status on the outer colonies? He asked his operations officer, Commander Nicole Porter. Defensive platforms are online and fully armed. We have minefields deployed at every predicted jump point. Colonial militia has been activated, and we distributed weapons from the emergency stockpiles. Nicole's fingers moved quickly across her console. The Yorktown colony is our strongest position. 3 orbital fortresses. A full garrison. Governor. Ryan Cole has organized the civilian population into support roles. If we are going to make a stand, that is where we do it. How long until the Varaxians arrive? 72 hours at their current speed? Are not even trying to hide their approach. It is like they want us to see them coming. Charles nodded grimly. That was exactly what the Varaxians wanted. They were used to enemies who surrendered at the mere sight of their armada. They expected humanity to see the fleet approaching and give up rather than face annihilation. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Get me Governor Cole on a communication channel and activate the Liberty Protocol, Charles ordered. The Liberty Protocol was Patricia's final contribution before the attack. A contingency plan she had developed over decades of service. Earth ever faced an existential threat, and if the military forces were not sufficient, then every human ship would be mobilized. Cargo haulers would lay mines. Passenger vessels would evacuate non-combatants. Even private yachts would serve as scouts and support craft. It was desperate, but these were desperate times, Governor. Ryan Cole appeared on the holographic display. A stocky man in his 50s with the weathered look of someone who had spent years on the frontier. Behind him, Charles could see the activity of a colony preparing for war. Admiral Wagner. We are ready here. My people are angry, sir. When they saw what the Varaxians did to General Morrison when they heard that recording of Zekthar ordering her execution, something changed. Nobody wants to run anymore. Good, Charles said. Because I need you to hold that position. The Varaxians are coming for Yorktown first. They want to make an example of your colony. To show everyone else what happens to humans who resist. We are sending every ship we can spare. But you are going to be the tip of the spear. Ryan's jaw tightened with determination. We will hold, sir. My daughter serves in the colonial militia. My neighbors and friends. Everyone I have known for 20 years. They are all here. This is our home. The Varaxians want it. They will have to take it from our cold, dead hands. Let us make sure it does not come to that. Charles switched channels, connecting to all the ships heading toward Dorktown. All vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Wagner. In 3 days, the Varaxian Empire is going to throw everything they have at us. They expect us to break. They expect us to run. They shot General Morrison because they thought killing our commander would shatter our will to resist. But they do not understand us. They do not understand that every time they push humanity, we push back harder. He paused, looking at the faces of ship captains on his display. Captain Sarah Bennett of the Liberty's Shield, still carrying Patricia's blood in its corridors. Commander Lisa Yang, now promoted to tactical coordinator with red eyes from crying but a steady voice. Major Greg Sutton, leading a Marine strike force with a personal need for revenge against every Varaxian. Hundreds more and thousands more, all watching and waiting. General Morrison is still fighting for her life in a hospital. Bed because she believed in peace. Charles continued, speaking with emotion in his voice. She spent her entire career trying to prevent this moment. But now that it is here, now that the Varaxians have shown there can be no peace with them, we honor her sacrifice by finishing what she started. We defend our homes. We protect our families. And we teach the Varaxian Empire that humanity is not prey to be hunted. We are warriors, and we will not go quietly into extinction. The response was instantaneous. Every ship in the fleet acknowledged, with their crews ready and weapons charged. For 900 years, humanity had been the diplomatic species. The peaceful species. The ones who avoided conflict. But beneath that surface lay something older and more primal, that the Varaxians had awakened with their treachery. On Earth, factories that had produced consumer goods for centuries now manufactured weapons. Shipyards that built luxury passenger ships now constructed warships. Universities that researched medicine and clean energy turned their brightest minds toward developing better armor and faster missiles and more powerful shields. The entire species mobilized with speed and efficiency that surprised even Earth's own leadership. In the medical wing of Earth Command, Patricia Morrison's doctors fought their own battle. The plasma bolt had caused damage that should have been fatal. Her lung was destroyed. Her heart was damaged. Her chest cavity was burned and mangled. But human medicine had advanced considerably in 900 years of peace. Microscopic robotic surgeons worked at the cellular level rebuilding tissue. Artificial organs supplemented her damaged natural ones. Special treatments accelerated healing that should have taken years. Claire. Morrison sat at her mother's bedside during off-duty hours holding the general's hand. "You always told me that the military was about protecting people who could not protect themselves," she whispered to her unconscious mother. "Now everyone is protecting you. The whole planet, Mom. They are fighting because of what happened to you. Because the Viraxians thought they could break us by breaking you. They were wrong." In her coma, Patricia's brain activity spiked on the monitors. The doctors noted it, uncertain what it meant. Was she aware? Could she hear? They did not know. But Claire liked to think. Her mother was listening and fighting to wake up and rejoin the battle. The 72 hours passed quickly. On Yorktown Colony, civilians not involved in direct defense evacuated on every available transport. They were sent toward the inner systems where they would be safer. Those who remained were mostly militia and support staff and colonists, who refused to abandon their homes. Ryan Cole walked the streets of the main settlement, shaking hands and offering encouragement. He knew many of these people would not survive what was coming in orbit above the colony. But defensive platforms hummed with power. Commander Nicole Porter had placed them strategically, creating overlapping fields of fire. The Viraxians would have to fight through a gauntlet of missiles and energy beams. The Earth Defense Force vessels took positions around the platforms. Smaller and less powerful than Viraxian ships, but maneuverable and determined. Lisa Yang coordinated the fleet from her station aboard the Liberty's shield. Sarah Bennett had given her a position on the bridge, and she used it to create a tactical network, linking every human ship and platform. They would fight as one unified force, covering each other's weaknesses and amplifying their strengths. It was the only way they had a chance. Greg Sutton and his Marines boarded the defense platforms, preparing for the possibility of Viraxian boarding actions. Each soldier carried extra ammunition and extra power packs. They all wore Patricia's general insignia on their armor as an unofficial badge of honor. This fight was for her and for all the years she had worked for, peace and for the trust she had placed in diplomacy. That had been so brutally betrayed, and then right on schedule the Viraxian fleet emerged from faster than light travel. There were 40 ships, each one larger than Earth's biggest warship. Their weapons were already charging and their shields at maximum power. At the center of the formation was the Imperial flagship called Sovereign's Wrath. Charles knew without being told that High Commander Zeke there was aboard come to personally oversee the destruction of humanity's outer colonies. The communication channels lit up with the standard Viraxian message. Humans of the Yorktown colony, you have 10 minutes to surrender unconditionally. Power down your weapons and evacuate your positions. Prepare to be relocated to Earth. Failure to comply will result in total annihilation. The Empire has spoken. Governor Ryan Cole sent the response himself. His voice carried the anger of 2 million colonists and the weight of 900 years of broken promises. Viraxian fleet, this is Governor Ryan Cole of Yorktown Colony. You want our home, you murderous cowards. Come and take it. The Viraxian fleet opened fire, and the battle began. The first Viraxian dreadnought died 6 minutes into the battle. The massive vessel called Sovereign's Will had pushed forward aggressively. Confident in its superior shields and firepower, it had not prepared for human creativity. 3 Earth destroyers named Defiant and Relentless Unyielding executed a coordinated strike that Captain Sarah Bennett had planned with careful precision. The Defiant drew the dreadnought's attention with a full weapons barrage, forcing it to angle its strongest shields forward. The Relentless swept in from below, dumping 30 fusion mines directly into the ship's projected path. And the Unyielding accelerated to ramming speed, with its captain Jason Moore transmitting one last message before impact. For General Morrison, the Unyielding's reactor went critical, just as it struck the dreadnought's engineering section. The explosion was visible from the surface of Yorktown Colony, like a brief new star. Both ships were consumed in nuclear fire, The Vraxian vessel broke apart with its forward section, tumbling away while secondary explosions rippled through its dying hull. Debris scattered across thousands of kilometers on the Liberty's shield. Commander Lisa Yang watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They had traded one destroyer for a dreadnought. In terms of size and firepower, it was a devastating loss. But in terms of proving the Vraxians could bleed, it was priceless. All ships pattern. Delta, she transmitted orders to the fleet. Hit and fade. Do not give them a stable target. Make them chase us through their own crossfire. The human fleet scattered like fish before a predator. Each ship executed high-speed maneuvers that pushed their engines to the limit. The Vraxians, used two enemies who stood and fought in formation, found themselves struggling to target vessels that refused to stay still. Their larger ships had more powerful weapons, but human vessels were faster and more agile, able to change direction with quickness the Vraxians could not match. Aboard the Sovereigns, Wrath High Commander Zeekther watched the destruction of one of his ships with mounting disbelief. Impossible. How did they destroy a dreadnought? With vessels half its size, his tactical officer, sub-commander, Vexler reviewed the combat data. They sacrificed one of their ships in a ramming attack. Primitive, but effective. And they are using maneuver tactics we have never encountered before. Our targeting systems are struggling to maintain locks. Then adjust the targeting parameters. Zeekther's mandibles clicked with fury. They are insects. Vermin. Crush them. The Vraxian fleet adapted, spreading out to cover more space and using their superior numbers to create killing zones. But for every tactic they employed, the humans found a counter. When the Vraxians tried to surround the Earth destroyers, the defensive platforms opened fire, forcing the alien ships to retreat or die. When they focused on the platforms, the human ships darted in and hammered their rear armor with missiles and particle beams. On Yorktown Colony's primary orbital fortress, Major Greg Sutton coordinated the Marine defense teams. The Vraxians had attempted their first boarding action, 20 minutes into the battle, sending assault shuttles toward the fortress. The Marines had been waiting and ready. Fire at will. Greg shouted as the shuttles entered weapons range. The fortress's defensive turrets shredded the first wave. Explosive rounds tore through shuttle hulls, decompressing them and sending Vraxian soldiers tumbling into space. But there were more shuttles coming, and 3 made it through the defensive fire to attach onto the fortress's hull. Breach teams get into positions. Greg grabbed his plasma rifle and moved toward Airlock 7, where the Vraxians were cutting through. The sound of their plasma torches was high-pitched and made every Marine's teeth hurt. Behind him, 30 soldiers took firing positions with their weapons trained on the breach point. The airlock exploded inward. Vraxian assault troops poured through, wearing heavy armor and carrying deadly weapons. But they were entering a prepared defensive position, and the Marines opened fire with everything they had. The corridor became a killing zone with plasma bolts and solid slugs filling the air. Bodies fell on both sides. Greg saw a Vraxian soldier raising a grenade launcher and shot him 3 times in the chest. The impact staggered the alien, but did not drop him. Greg adjusted his aim higher, targeting the weak points in the armor around the neck joint. Alien blood sprayed, and the Vraxian fell. His grenade launcher clattered to the deck, and Greg kicked it away before it could detonate. They are tough. Corporal Amy Wright shouted from beside him as her rifle fired rapidly. Armor is absorbing too much. Aim for the joints, Greg called back, and keep them in the kill box. The battle in the corridor lasted 15 brutal minutes. When it was over, 23 Vraxian soldiers lay dead, and 6 Marines had paid the ultimate price. Greg looked at the faces of the fallen, memorizing them and promising himself he would remember their names. If they survived, if anyone survived in space, the battle continued to rage. The Vraxian fleet had adapted to human tactics, but they were paying a price. 3 more dreadnoughts had been damaged, with 1 crippled and drifting. 9 smaller escort vessels had been destroyed. The cost to humanity had been severe, with 8 destroyers gone, and 5 frigates, and 2 of the orbital fortresses compromised. But they were still fighting, and still defiant. And every minute they held was a minute for reinforcements to arrive from the inner systems. On Earth, in the medical facility beneath Geneva, Patricia Morrison's eyes snapped open. The doctors rushed to her side, shocked. She had been in a coma for 72 hours with trauma that should have killed her. But her vital signs were stabilizing and her artificial organs were working, and now she was conscious and aware and struggling to speak. "Easy, General," Dr. Frank Hughes said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are safe. You are on Earth. You have been in surgery." Patricia's hand shot out with surprising strength, grabbing Frank's wrist. Her voice was a raspy whisper. "Damaged by tubes and the plasma burn? Yorktown. What is happening at Yorktown?" Frank exchanged glances with his medical team. They had been ordered to keep her sedated to let her body heal, but the look in her eyes left no room for argument. "The battle started 3 hours ago. Admiral Wagner is in command. They are holding, but barely. The Varaxians brought 40 ships." Patricia tried to sit up, gasping at the pain that shot through her body. "I need to get to the command center. I need to help them. You need to stay in bed," Frank said firmly. "General, you were shot with a plasma rifle at close range. The fact that you are alive is a miracle. If you try to move, you could rupture the surgical work. You could die. If I do not get back in command, everyone could die." Patricia forced herself upright, ignoring Frank's protests and ignoring the screaming agony from her chest. "Help me or get out of my way." She made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. Frank caught her, and for a moment Patricia hung there, supported by the doctor. Her breath came in ragged gasps. She was weak, so weak. The woman who had commanded Earth's military was reduced to someone who could barely stand. But she was alive, and while she lived, she would fight. "Get me a wheelchair," she said through gritted teeth. "Get me painkillers and stimulants. Whatever you have. And get me a direct link to Victory's Hope. Charles is going to need help." Frank looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Patricia's expression stopped him. This was not a request. The general was going back to war whether her body was ready or not. 20 minutes later, Patricia was in the command center, seated in a wheelchair with enough drugs in her system to keep her conscious. President Elena Martinez stood beside her, having been summoned from the assembly. Together they watched the tactical displays showing the battle at Yorktown. "They are heroes," Elena said quietly. "Every single person in that system. They know they might not survive, but they are fighting anyway." Patricia studied the display, analyzing patterns and weaknesses and opportunities. She opened a channel to Victory's Hope. "Charles, this is Morrison. I am back." The relief in Charles Wagner's voice was clear. "Patricia, thank God. We heard you were awake, but nobody thought you would be able to command. I cannot command from here." Patricia admitted, her voice still hoarse. "But I can help. I am looking at the tactical situation, and I have an idea. It is risky. It might cost us everything we have at Yorktown. But if it works, we could break their fleet." She outlined her plan quickly and efficiently. Charles listened, and she could hear his mind, working through the implications and the chances of success and the cost of failure. "It is insane," he said finally, "but we are past the point of playing it safe. Do it, I will coordinate with our ships. You coordinate with the platform commanders?" Patricia nodded already. "Opening channels to Governor Ryan Cole and the fortress commanders. Ryan, I need you to evacuate everyone non-essential from the fortress platforms. Get them on shuttles to the surface. Do it now." Ryan's face appeared on her display, grimy with smoke and exhaustion. "General Morrison, we all heard what happened to you. When we heard you were awake, it gave us hope. Then hold on to that hope for another 30 minutes, Patricia said. "Because I am going to need you to do something impossibly brave." She explained the plan. Ryan's eyes widened, then hardened with determination. "You want us to turn the fortresses into bombs? Into kinetic weapons?" Patricia corrected. "You have fusion reactors powering those platforms. If we overload them and use the maneuvering thrusters to aim them at the Vraxian capital ships, we could take out 3 or 4 dreadnoughts. In one strike, we will lose the platforms. All of them, we are losing them anyway. The Varaxians are systematically destroying them. But if we time this right, we turn defeat into victory. Ryan nodded slowly. All right, I will give the evacuation order. But General, some of us have to stay behind to pilot the platforms. Someone has to make sure they hit their targets. Patricia felt her chest tighten. She was asking people to die, to sacrifice themselves for a gambit that might not work. But she met Ryan's eyes and saw only resolve. Make it count, she said softly. Ryan saluted, sharp and precise. For humanity, General. And for you? The evacuation began immediately, and the trap was set. Shuttles lifted from the fortresses, packed with personnel who had been manning the weapons and life support systems. They fled toward the planet's surface while behind them the brave few who remained began overriding safety protocols and pushing the fusion reactors toward critical overload. Space Commander Lisa Yang received the signal and began positioning the Earth fleet for the final phase of Patricia's plan. All ships pattern Omega, she transmitted to every vessel. Draw the Varaxian fleet into the kill zone. Make them think we are retreating. The human ships pulled back, firing as they went and leading the Varaxian vessels deeper into orbit around Yorktown. High Commander Zekther, sensing victory, ordered his fleet to pursue aggressively. He wanted to crush these irritating humans and end their resistance once and for all. He never saw the trap closing around him, Governor. Governor Brian Cole stood on the bridge of Orbital Fortress. 3 alone, except for 5 volunteers who had refused evacuation orders. Below them, Yorktown rotated slowly. The home they had built. The world they were about to die defending. The reactor was in full overload now, with the entire structure shaking as containment began to fail. It has been an honor, Ryan said to his volunteers with their faces illuminated by warning lights, flashing across every console. The honor was ours, Governor. Lieutenant Karen Foster replied as she took control of the fortress's maneuvering systems. Now let us make these murderers pay. She activated the thrusters and Orbital Fortress 3 began to move, accelerating directly toward the nearest Varaxian dreadnought. Behind it, 2 more fortresses did the same, piloted by volunteers, who had accepted this was their last mission and their final contribution to humanity's survival. The Varaxians saw them coming, but could not maneuver in time. The fortresses were not moving at normal speeds. They were accelerating with everything they had, pushing their thrusters beyond safe limits because safe limits no longer mattered. Inside each one, a fusion reactor was seconds from catastrophic failure. Orbital Fortress 3 struck the Varaxian dreadnought called Eternal Dominion in the middle section. The reactor detonated on impact, releasing energy equivalent to 50 nuclear weapons. The dreadnought simply ceased to exist, vaporized in a flash of light that momentarily outshone Yorktown's sun. The shockwave from the explosion damaged to nearby Varaxian ships and forced the rest of the fleet to scatter in panic. The other 2 fortresses found their targets seconds later. More explosions. More Varaxian ships destroyed or crippled. In 30 seconds, Patricia Morrison's desperate plan had eliminated 4 dreadnoughts and damaged 6 more ships. The Varaxian fleet, which had seemed invincible, was suddenly bleeding badly, and that was when Earth's reinforcements arrived. 12. Fresh warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, led by the dreadnought Indomitable. It was the largest vessel in Earth's arsenal. They had been racing toward Yorktown for 3 days, pushing their engines to the limit, praying they would arrive in time. Now they swept into the battle with their weapons charged and their crews burning with fury. High Commander Zekther watched his tactical display with something approaching panic. In the span of minutes, his overwhelming advantage had disappeared. He had lost nearly a quarter of his fleet. The humans showed no signs of surrendering. Now reinforcements had arrived. This was not how conquests were supposed to go. Lesser species were supposed to fold and accept defeat. They were not supposed to fight back with such ferocity and cunning and utter refusal to die. All ships withdraw, he ordered with his voice tight. Retreat to the rally point at Epsilon Eridani. We will regroup and plan a new strategy. No. A voice came across the Varaxian Fleet's communication channels, and Zekthar recognized it with shock. It was the human general. The one he had shot? The one who should have been dead? Patricia Morrison speaking directly to him, with her voice damaged, but unbowed. "You started this war, Zekthar," Patricia said with cold anger. "You came to Yorktown expecting us to surrender and die. You thought shooting me would break humanity's will to fight. You were wrong. And now you are running. But we are going to remember this. We are going to remember that you fired first, that you murdered diplomats under a flag of truce, that you gave us no choice but to defend ourselves. And we are going to make sure everyone in the galaxy knows that the mighty Varaxian Empire could not even conquer a single human colony without losing a quarter of their fleet." The transmission ended. The Varaxian fleet, battered and bleeding, retreated from Yorktown, jumping to faster-than-light speed as soon as they cleared the planet's gravity well. They left behind debris and bodies and the wreckage of 9 dreadnoughts and 23 smaller vessels. The Battle of Yorktown was over. Humanity had won. But everyone knew the war was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Yorktown, the galaxy looked very different. The Varaxian Empire, which had ruled 14 star systems with absolute authority for over 1,000 years, was in retreat. The stunning defeat at Yorktown had emboldened other species that the Varaxians had intimidated into submission. The Keleth Confederacy declared independence and fought off 3 Varaxian attacks. The Crystalline Collective severed all trade agreements and closed their jump gates to Imperial vessels. Even the Varaxians' client species began to question whether the Empire was truly invincible. Humanity, meanwhile, had transformed completely. The 900-year peace had ended not with surrender, but with defiance. The species that had avoided conflict for nearly a millennium discovered that when pushed to the edge of extinction, they fought with creativity and determination that shocked the galaxy. Human vessels once relegated to patrol and commerce became feared throughout known space. Human tactics developed through desperate necessity were studied by military academies on dozens of worlds. And human names like Patricia Morrison and Ryan Cole and Karen Foster became symbols of courage and sacrifice. Patricia stood in the rebuilt command center of Earth's orbital defense network, looking out at a fleet that had tripled in size since the war began. New ships were being launched daily from shipyards that worked constantly. Earth's industrial capacity, peaceful for 9 centuries, had been unleashed, and the results were staggering. Weapons that humans had designed but never built now protected 50 light-years of space. The cost had been terrible. 34,000 dead at Yorktown alone. Another 100,000 across the other battles that followed as the Varaxians tried and failed to reassert control over human space. Every victory had been paid for in blood, and Patricia felt the weight of every loss. But they were still here. Still free. "Still human, General. We are receiving a transmission from the Varaxian Empire." Commander Lisa Yang reported from her station. She had been promoted to Patricia's Chief of Operations after the battle. It is marked as urgent diplomatic communication. Patricia's chest still ached where the plasma bolt had struck her. The artificial lung that replaced her destroyed natural one functioned perfectly, but the psychological scar was deeper. She had spent her life seeking peace, and violence had nearly killed her. But she had learned something in that moment of pain and betrayal. Sometimes peace had to be fought for and defended and earned through strength, rather than granted through mercy. "Put it through," she ordered. The holographic display showed High Commander Zekthar. He looked different than 6 months ago. His armor was less polished. His bearing was less arrogant. The creature who had shot her in cold blood now approached with something that might have been respect, or might simply have been fear. "General Morrison," Zekthar said, using her proper title this time, with none of the dismissive contempt from their last meeting. "The Empire requests a ceasefire. We wish to return to negotiations." Patricia let the silence stretch for a long moment. Around her, the command center staff had gone quiet, with everyone listening. This was the moment they had been fighting for. The chance to end the war. But it had to be ended on the right terms. 6 months ago, you called me to a peace talk and shot me," Patricia said with her voice level and controlled. "You attempted to conquer our colonies through intimidation and murder. You gave us no choice but to defend ourselves. Why should I believe anything you say now?" because we have learned. Zekather replied, and Patricia heard something unexpected in his voice. Not quite humility, but at least acknowledgement. The Varaxian Empire has ruled through strength for a millennium. We believed no lesser species could challenge us. You proved us wrong. At Yorktown, and at every battle since, humanity has demonstrated that strength alone is not enough. You fight with intelligence and courage and unity that we did not anticipate. Is this an apology? Patricia asked coldly. This is a recognition of reality. Zekthar's mandibles clicked slowly. Continued warfare serves neither of our peoples. You cannot destroy the Empire. Our forces still outnumber yours substantially. But we can no longer simply conquer human space without costs that would cripple us. Other species are watching. If we appear weak, they will rise against us. And if we pour all our resources into crushing humanity, we leave ourselves vulnerable to greater threats. Patricia glanced at Fleet Admiral Charles Wagner, who stood beside her. He nodded slightly. They had discussed this possibility many times. The Vraxians could not win quickly, and a prolonged war would destroy them politically. Humanity could not sustain the current pace of combat forever. They were winning battles, but taking losses. They could not easily replace. The war had reached a stalemate, which meant it was time to negotiate from strength. The last treaty was broken by your empire, Patricia said. If we are going to discuss new terms, they will be very different from the old ones. We understand. The empire is prepared to make concessions. Let me be clear about what humanity requires. Patricia leaned forward despite the pain in her chest. First, all outer colonies remain under human control with no restrictions on our expansion. Second, full diplomatic recognition as equals, not as subjects. Third, reparations for the damage caused by your attacks. Fourth, and this is non-negotiable, you will stand trial at a neutral tribunal for ordering the attempted murder of a diplomat. You personally said? The negotiations took 3 weeks. President Alina Martinez led the diplomatic efforts supported by Ambassador Kenneth Price. They met on a new neutral station, protected by ships from 6 different species. The final treaty was signed on a day Earth declared a holiday. The war was over. Humanity had secured terms that elevated them to a recognized power in galactic politics. Hi, Commander Zekather was tried and found guilty of war crimes. His sentence was exile and house arrest on a neutral world, stripped of rank and honor. For the Varaxian Empire, it was a humiliation that sent shockwaves through their society. But it sent a message to every species in the galaxy. The era of the Varaxians taking what they wanted was over. Patricia attended the sentencing in her wheelchair. She watched as Zekather was led away by peacekeepers. Their eyes met for a moment, and Patricia saw resignation and perhaps even respect. The galaxy they lived in was more dangerous now, but they were still free and still Cap.